Very good afternoon, Air Marshal Bhushan Gokhale, sir, and welcome to the session of Uncovering India. And we are at a stage when you are perhaps the best person to throw light on the developments that's happening today. And the Indian Air Force, as you know, is in the forefront of fighting COVID by transporting empty oxygen tankers from various parts of the country and abroad to get it refilled, and then oxygen cylinders being transported from various parts of the world and the country. How do you feel? You must be feeling very proud at the stellar role the Air Force is playing.
Thank you, Shashwat. It's nice to be on your program. Before I start, I must also pay my respect to all the Corona warriors, as they are called, all the medical fraternity, doctors, nurses, the assistants in the hospitals, the police, the reporters who are going on the fronts and to report everything. So hats off to all of them. And I think that is what the best part of this teamwork of India is. And we are, armed forces are nobody different. We are part of the society, and we naturally have been engaged for many, many years now, apart from fighting war to win it, to also help in disaster management, whether it's man-made or natural. So I have, of course, a lot of background on this. But especially at the moment when we are together looking at how to provide succor to patients, hospitals, I think Indian Air Force is doing a wonderful work of flying in from abroad and within India. And of course, we've got some very good platforms now to do that kind of strategic lift, as it's called, with C-17, the C-130. We also got the helicopters which are being used in Ladakh area to move not only the testing equipment but also some of the oxygen concentrators. Yeah, so it's a mammoth task, and I think this morning only I heard Lieutenant Madhuri Kanitkar talking about what is known as the co-jeet. That means, working together to win over this particular battle that we have at hand.
So, how do you review this entire role of Indian Air Force that it is in? Not very long ago, it was in the middle of action in Ladakh area, transporting troops and weapon systems to counter the Chinese aggression. And now, soon after that, it is again involved in this mammoth task of providing COVID relief.
I think it's a very good question, Shashwat. I must mention that one of the attributes of air power is the flexibility. One of the major characteristics is being able to react very fast. And that reaction can allow us to switch roles, to be able to be flexible between carrying troops or whether carrying medical equipment. We've been able to also use reach, what it's called, because none of the obstacles on the ground they affect us. We can go directly to places where they are, and different platforms are used, because of which this particular aid can be reached, or for that matter, even the military equipment can be taken to specific areas of where the conflict is or where the actual attention is required. So, like the helicopters take the smaller loads, they even drop from the air, and there is also land at some places where helipads are possible, and they have been doing wonderful work to ensure that the entire the chain, the logistic chain, is maintained because of this air power in particular. So let me just give you a little background on this. My own career spans from 1968, and I remember in those days the Dakotas used to be used in Arunachal as well as in Nagaland to drop for the Indian Army troops various logistic support area, whether it's food packets or whether it's oil of drums used to be dropped. We used to para drop them. And I remember seeing that, and that was the capability which has built over a period to also take part in disasters. Those days the helicopters were few, but then as we have increased the helicopters have been able to reduce the damage that happens during para drop, because nothing like landing, and then offloading what happened subsequently. To give you an example, I myself have been involved in some of the major disaster management, or I've seen them. When I was commanding Gorakhpur, we had massive flood, and that was in '98. I had just come back from Egypt, and then I was commanding the station. Massive floods. The Ganga, the Gandak, and all of them. And I used to also from Gorakhpur have a role to play in areas in Bihar. We had a satellite air base at Darbhanga, and we were the only ones who were supporting the entire operation by ensuring that the bigger aircraft brought food packets from, say, Allahabad or Lucknow, and the helicopters, they would go around not just dropping, if possible, to land, and also to evacuate casualties. I mean, there have been some heartbreaking scenes, where people have been saying that they're going to drown, and the helicopter boys have wished them up. I used to keep telling them, I've flown with them, and I remember mentioning them that, look, they used to really go out of their way. I used to feel concerned sometimes that they're taking so many chances, because there are, a lot of obstacles, especially when you go to the urban areas. There are wires, there are telephone wires, not just telephone, but high tension wires, and that can be very disastrous for the helicopter. But they used to be really at it. So I had even codenamed that particular thing called Operation Frog, and it came in the international news. I remember somebody from New York rang me up saying that, Commodore Gokhale, you're in news. You've got Operation Frog. So it was flood relief Operation Gorakhpur. And I must proudly mention to you that that time Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji had come all the way into my office, and he had written a beautiful, on the visitors, in the visitors book, a message for the Indian Air Force, saying that we are so grateful for the contribution the Indian Air Force has done for ensuring that this entire population of the northern UP as well as Bihar is air maintained. So it was my closest reaction at that time with disaster management. Then I remember I was working in Air Chief's office, Air Chief Marshal Tipnis' office, as what called the Air Advisor. And on 26 January 2005, we had 2001, we had the Bhuj earthquake. And I remember the Republic Day parade was on, so I somehow just slipped in a note to him, and it was around 12 o'clock that I finally could get. The parade got over, and he immediately rushed. That evening, then Defense Minister George Fernandez and Chief Marshal Tipnis, along with doctors, and I was also on board. We flew in an M32 to Bhuj, and we saw the disaster. Actually, the Indian Air Force airfield itself was damaged. We lost something like 100 plus people ourselves. But the Air Force was on its toes all the time, accepting aircraft from all over the world. They were helping us. And, it was reminding me at that time that 14 months, what has been talked so much about is the Berlin airlift. And the total tonnage taken was only 2.2 or 2.3 tons. Of course, the aircraft were much smaller. But then during this particular Bhuj itself, I remember just Agra, where IL-76 used to keep going up and down Bhuj and various other places, we had surpassed that at least 10 times. Today, the C-17s, already about a figure I've got is something like a 40 tons they've already moved from here and there. So that is the kind of Air Force has been doing it. Whether it is, we even sent two aircraft all the way to Katrina, which happened in USA. Katrina cyclone, if you know, in Louisiana, it took place. A lot of damage. In tsunami, we took part. I was that time in charge of this operation. We was in Bangalore, and one of our stations, Tambram, which closest to Karnik, Andaman Nicobar, we had set up a kind of a control station, and but our helicopter boys were there, despite that they had lost their own houses. Some people had even had their family in distress, but they were flying in pajamas, and they were doing wonderful work. So that's the kind of involvement I find that our Indian Air Force Air Warriors have. The maintenance staff is equally stressed as much, ensuring that all the time the succor is reached to the needy.
So, handling natural disasters is one thing, which over time you get a rich experience. But handling such an health pandemic of this scale, and then such a different thing that we are doing, dropping resources, dropping food packets, rescuing people from flood affected regions or earthquake affected regions is one thing, but going to various parts of the world and the country to pick up those heavy your oxygen tankers and oxygen
Very good point. Very.
so what kind of thing does it show? What kind of message or what kind of signal does it throw up?
No, I think one of the important points that you've raised is what is the difference between the two. While transporting or taking things within the aircraft is almost a similar act, but you see, the personnel themselves have to protect themselves by PPE kits, ensuring that there is no infection on board the aircraft, or for that matter, when they are offloading this. So that is an added thing which has happened during this COVID pandemic. Otherwise, normally taking stuff is not as much, which is different than what is happening. Yes, there is also when you're carrying oxygen, it's inflammable. So you got to take a lot of precautions. That's why there are restrictions on carrying liquid oxygen, dry oxygen, or empty containers. A lot of times, empty containers are taken without any problem, and the filled containers are coming by the trains, as you know, instead of tank carriers or gun carriers. Railways are giving them platform to ensure. But we have been using also oxygen concentrators and things like that, and they have been transported because they're coming all the way from Germany, or Singapore, or sometimes from Japan. I think almost 10 odd countries C-17s have gone, and I think they've done some wonderful work of airlifting all these things without taking much rest. So there is a difference, no doubt, during a natural disaster and this particular one, where not just India but the whole world is worried about the safety precautions. As you know, the IPL has just been called off because of just somebody has broken the bubble. So this bubble is most important to be ensuring that during ground handling or during even whatever precautions have to be taken for COVID, they are taken by the flying crew as well as the handling crew. So it's no doubt a challenge. I think Air Force has risen to the challenge, or for that matter, obviously the armed forces have risen to the challenge of this particular thing, because we have one good thing in the services. What we do is a SOP, what we call the standard operating procedure. Once we get used to a particular way of doing it, we put it down and make sure that all the flights, they follow a particular standard operating, so that so there would be checklists to say that, okay, before going, do this, make sure that you are sanitize yourself. Then so those are things which are important. We got some experience also during Vande Mataram flights. We had moved some of the pilots, apart from Air India doing it. So was the Indian Air Force aircraft being sent across to Iran and places like that to get people across. So that experience has helped in ensuring we mature ourselves over a period of time.
A lot of time these kind of one that factor that worries me is that the overstretching of the armed forces resources, be it counterinsurgency, be it natural disaster or a health disaster, despite having an NDRF and various other agencies under the NDMA, it is always the armed forces which is called for all these rescue act. So, do you think that the NDMA as such needs to be more relevant in using its resources rather than relying on the armed forces every time?
No, you have a point. But what happens is, you see, our assets are not so much like, maybe some other countries you want to compare with. So our assets sometimes have to be pooled in. Mind you, when I was also serving at that time, the NDMA had just got formed. Otherwise, till that time, it was the Agriculture Ministry which used to look after the disasters. But it was when the IDS got formed and we had the NDMA. Now there's a close liaison made, and because, as I mentioned, the resources are limited, so within the services, whatever resources there are, so yes, the first responders normally have been, whether it is in the floods in Sangli or whether there have been floods in some other places, some NDRF units have been deployed immediately. As you know, very close to Pune, in Talegaon itself, we have an NDRF unit. So sometimes they are rushed here and there, but their limitation of equipment, maybe they have some boats to cater for floods and things like that. But they have, as I said, sources are not as much as what they can be for size of our country that there is. So invariably you find that whether it's army engineers who are called, they are taken to various places, they're doing floods, and of course, how do we take them? To take them fastest, say for example, something happens in Orissa or in West Bengal, where normally there are a lot of these cyclones areas, or even Andhra, northern Andhra, then you do find the Air Force will quickly pick up some of these, and then till the time the local people, local troops are fighting it out, some additional resources are sent. I remember we were sending blankets and clothing. We were sending lanterns and all kinds of things. One other thing I still remember very vividly. Uh, we used to have a problem of communication, especially when the helicopters used to go across into the valley and Uttarakhand. We really used to lose contact because of after all, communication, the hilly area is not as very good, and we wanted to warn them about, say, weather coming in, because it was during the weather time that cloud burst happens. So we took up a case for satellite phones on every helicopter, and luckily the government, of course, gave permission, and we have now put, especially when they are deployed, we put satellite communication. We have used them, of course, even abroad, like when our helicopters have been deployed in Congo or in Sudan. The satellite communication has helped in making sure that our communications with the person on the spot, that is a helicopter on the spot, is kept, and because of that, the reaction, the flexibility adds on. So I think, in a way, the technology, the shortage of resources on one hand, but making sure that, I'll call it Team India, which works together to ensure that succor is given to everybody.
So, sir, when a country's air force, which is involved in such a mammoth scale operations, especially aiding the civilian population, of course, the same things are being viewed by your enemy and friendly countries both, so across the world. So, what kind of message or impression does it create about the capacity of our armed forces and our image and the way we operate?
I think there are two messages, loud and clear, they must be getting. One is the, as I said, the strength, the intrinsic strength of the armed forces to be able to help their own countrymen in such difficult conditions. If they just want to just sit in their campuses or be in their cantonments, then that is certainly not appreciable. When there is now, as you know, a lot of military hospitals have been opened out to civilians. So that is the way, because after all, the armed forces are no different, they're part of the society. So I think that's one very important message, that Indian armed forces are part of a democratic process where everybody is treated in that kind of a win-win situation for everybody. And second important thing is the way that we can switch roles, we can be flexible, we can make sure that we can adapt ourselves to difficult conditions and still come out winner. So I think that itself can make sure that they understand that, look, these are people who are can easily switch roles to another logistics requirement if it's so required during the war, uh, and that has been proven many times. Inter-theater movement, inter-area movement, you know, we have done it so wonderfully, as you mentioned some time back, even now, even deployed in Ladakh, is going on. And, the assets are given in such a way that there is this kind of, that's one of the reasons why the kind of a centralized planning at times has to be resorted to, because there is certain requirement in the north, certain requirement maybe in other areas. So they divide and ensure that there is enough support kept at where the most critical areas are. Uh, and these people have been flying day and night, let me tell you. As I said, when I was in the supervisory level and senior level, I used to be at times worried about, as to, we have the rules of how much of rest they must take on ground before they fly, something like what happens in airlines also. So, especially I remember in the helicopters, they get emotionally involved at times. They find that they have gone and they have been able to rescue three people, and then another three or four out of the same family are waiting and they don't have capacity. So they say, we're just going to come back. So they come, it's supposed, it's say 15, 20 minutes and they want to go back again. But it's another different, they have to come, they have to offload the earlier people, once again go to the same spot. And this time maybe by then the water has risen more, or maybe there is some other difficulty, but they really go out of their way. They get, so I used to literally counsel them that look, make sure that your own safety you don't compromise. But hats off to them, and I really salute all these warriors of all the three services who are ensuring that in calamitous conditions they don't just sit back, but they're part of the team.
Looking at this at the growing nature of Air Force's role in disaster response and operational response, military response, what kind of further platforms do you think Air Force should add, or the government and Air Force should sit and look at acquiring newer platforms that can make such mammoth scale operations more easier? Do you think there is a requirement, or there is a scope for uh, augmenting the strength of the Air Force in terms of adding some newer platforms, public technologies?
Of course, there is, that debate is on for a while, I would say, because luckily I myself was involved. There is a Avro replacement aircraft which is now going to be manufactured in the private sector between Airbus and Tata. It's a C295, which has got a much better tonnage as compared to not just Avro, but even more than the N32. So that aircraft, when it starts rolling out, you will find that it will add to our, and we are talking in terms of at the moment only about 50 aircraft, but I think Navy is already ordering 20. But it can, over a period, even replace N32. So you find that that platform will be very good because it's a rear loading ramp like what N32 has. So you'll be able to take jeeps or whatever else that are required. Because as I said, the entire logistic chain is what is most important, that is taking bigger equipment in aircraft like C-17 or the slightly smaller ones in C-130 or IL-76 and then AN-32. So, there's each aircraft has a tonnage, as you know, that, you've got 70 tons, 40 tons, 50 tons, and like that they carry on. And then we have absolutely smaller just passenger aircraft like Dorniers, and then the whole range of helicopters. So I have a feeling that as we look ahead, we will be having more and more of these heli lift platforms because they reach on the spot and they don't waste any. Like when we used to do paradrop, I said mentioned in 68, 70, I remember seeing it myself. A lot of damage used to be because the parachute, it tends to go with the wind, and many of it is lost out because it goes and just drops somewhere which the people on the ground are unable to access. So it's like you heard about DBO. At DBO at one time, everything had to be dropped. Then the helicopter started going. Today now you have C-130 which goes. So nothing is damaged. So that's the way we will also progress to a lot of advanced landing grounds in Arunachal. At the moment, we are also doing firefighting in Arunachal. There is a fire and forest fire, so Air Force is trying to douse it by putting water in the helicopters. So there are these multi-role factors which happen because there is water also to carry in a helicopter and then to be able to throw it from the top. That's an art by itself. There's a lot of changes in center of gravity that takes place, and flying skills have to be there. So we will have more of these platforms. I'm sure that since they are a multi-role aircraft in a way because they can be used for transporting military hardware or maybe civil hardware, civil aid, they will be, as we go ahead, maybe look at another few aircraft of a bigger type. And similarly, in each of the sectors, or I would say each sectorial aircraft, we will add some more platforms. Mind you, UAV is something which we have not yet looked at in this particular frame. But yes, there is already some talk on, especially when I read in the world media, that even UAVs are being used to drop or to take to points. With some of the, as you know, at the moment there is mischief on the western border. We have our neighbor who's trying to drop some arms or maybe some satellite phones or whatever it is for use for terrorists. So those are smaller things at the moment. But as we look at bigger platform, bigger UAVs for peaceful purposes, they can be, as I said, it's a very flexible way of using platforms.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your spending your crucial time with us. And before we end, what kind of message would you like to give to our viewers in this current pandemic scenario? That how the Indian Air Force is standing by the citizens of this country?
It's, I would give a very positive and a very reassuring message that there is no difference between you and us. We all are we, and we will overcome this particular difficult patch that we are going through. We are not alone in this. The whole world is in it. So don't lose heart. We are there. There are ups and downs which happen because of some critical equipment at particular time at times may not be available, but things are improving by the day. So please be reassured that the armed forces will always be there for every kind of help. I'm very sure of my colleagues who are there, and I would add you also, because you are equally very disciplined citizens who are making sure that all the protocols are followed for the COVID, whether it's mask or do gaj duri and everything, because these are important. More and more, all of us cooperate in this particular thing. You will find less casualties, and there's a less requirement to be able to sort of have more emergencies at our hand. So please, I think let's all put our hands together and fight this corona, throw it out of India and throw it out of the world, as a matter of fact. I wish you all the very best. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Jain, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Take care and wishing you a very healthy day, future ahead.